So we're going to try out a little different angle here. Starting in on our walk, we had beef liver, sardines, tuna, coffee with heavy cream, and 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. My stomach's a little queasy. My appetite's dropped off. I'm dropping weight. And I took my my mind off training for a few. I'm not overtly focusing on resistance training. Something you need to remember is if you got in really good shape, you were working out like I was, but some time went by where you let yourself lapse, right? And you think you lost it all. You'll be amazed at how every single time you've gone in and exercised, whether you went in and did heavy squats for 6 months straight, or met certain pull-up challenges, right? Like I've done all those things at different times. One thing I've never done is brought my body weight down enough, which is what I was planning on. TRX is going to help me with that, to where I could effectively work with my own body weight and do a pistol. That's something I've wanted to do for over 15 years now. And that takes, like when you're too heavy and you don't realize it, you start to bend your knee and you go, oh man, there's no way I'm going to do that. But when you get into balance, like I was right there where I probably could have done it, but I was still heavier than I should have been. So believe it or not, at 165 pounds, doing even 163 to 167, I was overweight. Because when you look at your natural pennation angles, your bone size, right? There's an articulation and even a speed to where an engineer, a mathematician, looking at nothing else but the vectors and scalars and first, second, third class lever systems and how you are operating within other environments and along with other devices and applications, could determine your maximum speed, right? And then all of the other constants are taken into consideration. If there's a deviation, an asymmetrical deviation between the two sides, if there's been some injuries, and then you calculate in the last thing that you look at is age. The last thing that you're looking at is a restriction with age, and that's what people start out with first. And what people should be focusing on, which surprisingly they still aren't to this day, people are over-muscled. They're carrying extra weight around. It's keeping them from developing speed, agility, and quickness systemically, obviously, and being able to snap through these various planes of motion instantaneously, rapidly. Response, right? Responding, responsibility, the ability to respond. And it's a big question, like I always go there, right? But it's a big question whether or not there is a pervading agency. We know the CIA and that this cabal is wreaking havoc on people, or reaping havoc, and creating laws, bylines. I think, honestly, this sounds really foolish to say, but it's like did they know every single ramification that would come out of it? What dropping a chaos bomb would do, or did they just think of the subset and then realize there's going to be a multiplicity of other agencies that will arise that will combat all of these problems? And it's like the AIDS and Ebola, right? The Len Horowitz, right? Vaccines, seeing that they were actually patented long before AIDS was ever declared. Wasn't an epidemic, but it was systemic, and even more so, it is tied into a lot of the things that were happening. I'm not saying directly, but the Atlanta murders, child murders, are something to look into. Makes me sick that from a personal standpoint of how I've been attacked, but from a bioengineering standpoint, and then an assumptive political, social, geoengineering perspective, they're everywhere, right? They're manipulating, altering, tailoring. So I've walked 1,700 miles like this, just going back and forth. And the big difference is, so I shot up to 205 pounds. I didn't just go from 155 up to 205. I probably got up to about 165 and then shot up to about 187, 195, and then spent an extra month like kind of tilting up toward 205, but that was like 205 dressed, middle of the day sort of thing, where you don't really care. Then when you start caring, you're weighing yourself without your clothes, without your shoes. You're really trying to get an accurate reading. So, I might have been under 200 pounds, right? So now I'm down to I would say about 181 pounds. And when I look at, so yesterday I was doing a cross comparison of just basic physiology, where I'm at. And the fact that I can perform relatively well on that TRX is way more than where I was at 185 pounds about 2 years ago, a year and a half, about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, around this time actually. So now that I'm able to look back at September of 2023, I'm able to see I was 182 pounds. My shoulders were a little bit bigger, right? I hadn't done that type of conditioning and training for quite some time. The fat's going on very similarly, but I'm not as soft as I was. And the biggest difference is that at 185 or so pounds, about 190 pounds is when I just started walking. And then I was really having trouble with my carbohydrate cravings because I had never done carnivore or, I'd done many other diets. I'd never done carnivore before. And carnivore is overly touted, like any name that doesn't directly identify exactly what the metabolic, like right now, if I stay, ChatGPT's my nutritionist because I've studied nutrition and gotten nutrition certifications and read sports nutrition texts, so I know the right questions to ask to get the right answers, and I can dig in deeper, and it's far more beneficial. It's bizarre. You would think that doctors would be out of business with ChatGPT, nutritionists would be running to the hills, all these occupations would just shut down and disappear, but people stay. I mean, that's ignorance. People are choosing to stay ignorant at this point. And even more so, they'll use ChatGPT and ask it stupid questions and giggle about it, right? Instead of asking life-affirming or life-threatening questions where they really need to come down to the fundamentals. In other words, ChatGPT will replace your doctor any day. You just go in there when you have to get, when you have to get blood panels or, and they want to raise an eyebrow. But the truth is, I've had so many clients that were doctors, and every one of them, in truth, in confidentiality, they'd tell me, yeah, we just have to do like 1 or 2 units, and we don't even have to do nutrition like we can do other things. But this is way back when in the day, but I'd just go take a weekend course, and that was the extent of it. We didn't have to know about it, right? And this is a doctor that works obviously with the human body, but God, what did he do? There's been so many, and I've had so many conversations with so many different doctors. It's been many years, Whew. Yeah, when I shift, I start the blood kind of. So right now I'm in gluconeogenesis. So if you stay under, really it's under 100 grams, and it depends on if you're training or not, how much protein you're taking in, right? But if you stay around 50 grams of protein or under, you're flying through gluconeogenesis. That's the perfect spot. So a diet that I highly recommend is, and don't overdo it, but you eat so 1 pound of beef liver lasts me all week. In fact, I'd almost say take the 6th day off and throw away the little bit that you have. That's how you nurse 1 pound of beef liver properly, because I learned that the hard way. By the end of the week, I ate this really crunchy thing, and I didn't feel good all day. My son saved me. He brought me some really expensive, I think it was like prime rib or something. It just sort of snapped me into ketosis, right, with that nice fatty meat. But even then, I'm primarily in gluconeogenesis. And it really is whether or not you're trained, what type of training you're doing, how much brown fat, beige fat you've got on your body. And when I don't train all day, like today, my son's going to work. He went to work a little later today. I didn't get to my walk until the afternoon. So I didn't really eat anything, and my appetite has completely dropped off. And that's the big difference. At this body weight, this is the golden zone. And the crazy thing is with the sardines, with the beef liver, what else did I have? I had a can of tuna. With that focus, you are going to find yourself being extremely satiated. The satiety's through the roof. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm waiting on an order from Amazon where I ended up spending way too little on food. I'm just not interested in food. I'm fit. Like, my body knows that it has a surplus of fat at this point. And the primary thing is I was working on my conditioning 2 years ago. Like, I hadn't walked, I hadn't done anything. It was like huffing and puffing and trying to figure it out. And then, like, the walk that I'm doing right now, it took a lot of focus. My body hurt, right? So even when I came back down 6-7 months ago from the Sacramento area, I was amazed how I was able to just hop right in and do 3-4 miles, and I hadn't been walking prior to that. I even have a video. I think I crept up to in the 170s, and I'm going to tell you, like, within 3 weeks, I would have been right back down. But I was missing something, and the reason that I gained another 30 pounds above that, probably 20 to 25 pounds above that, is I'm going to say I was just teetering up above 195. So It's not like I was close to 240 or 235 where I was. So if you can imagine that on my smaller bone structure, right? And to me, I look 175 right now. I've just got some inflammation going on. Especially on this side right here, I've got inflammation. So my musculature is very tight and fit without any hypertrophy or bulk and very condensed. So I'm much more condensed and hard and overall globally systemically fitter, far fitter than I was 2 years ago. My body wanted to go either way. It was like, okay, we could go gain 50 more pounds, get up to 300 pounds or whatever, or 275, and just start doing strongman type shit, which would have been terrible for me. Or let's get down there. And then I lost so much weight that I have never in my adult life ever weighed in the 150s. And there was a point there where I realized, man, you're about to go down into the 140s. And I was afraid, but I should have done it. What happened is that I felt very weak. My metabolism was going extremely fast. It was like my thyroid was going insane. I was low in so many nutrients, and I was trying to buy supplements and figure this out. And I'm telling you, I have done the homework for you, and people don't want to hear it. And when I saw the profile, you got to understand, if you say like Satan's working harder or the devil's always there, right? However you want to identify that, which I think is a more accurate statement than any of the quantum physicists or, any of these people who are trying to work in a more practical matter and name it something. They've never come face to face or been around that pure evil. They're trying to hide in this sort of computational mind subset. But there's a point where you can't hide from the phenomenon. You know it's there. You know it's watching. But do I sway away from technology? I think it's still a form of technology. And I don't really believe in aliens. Like, I think if there were aliens, they were already killed off long ago. And I don't really believe in interdimensional stuff. I think the truth is far scarier, perplexing, and more based around us from as far as locality than we would even feel comfortable knowing. And that the true agenda has to do with base principles, and that just accepting the dogma through Christian theology is not enough, but it's not too outlandish in the descriptor of what's really going on. But if you believe one thing, they'll use that against you, right? And they'll bend it and twist it. That's what they do with everything. Whatever you'll gravitate toward, whatever you'll believe, they'll be like, go ahead. So I'm getting thermic already. Yeah, I'm far fitter and far more fit than I was 2 years ago for sure. So what we got here is I got my kids some chocolate ice cream for when my son comes over. He wanted some Hot Pockets. What I do now is I add, I didn't get a huge box, chicken, bacon ranch, and I add olive oil to that, and it changes the profile of that meal quite a bit. But what I have in here for me is I've got this fatty, yummy meat. I mean, this is an entire, this will last, each one of these could last me 3 days. So, and then I have what I'll be sticking with here. I've got all this beef liver, right? And chicken. So I got the 8 pounds of chicken breast. I got another 5 coming tomorrow, but I'm not hungry. And then I have these eggs that are from last month, but I keep putting them in water to see if they'll go bad. And then I got my son these. I ended up getting those for free. And I got myself for $1 this knockoff Dr. Pepper. I'm going to have a little more of that, which is really good. Really, really good. But the Diet Dr. Pepper is... So I've always used diet cola beverages, right, for the phenylalanine. And then knowing that's an excitatory neurotransmitter, knowing the B's that I'm taking in with the complete skew of B vitamins with the beef liver, especially between the four foods, which is the fourth one that I didn't mention is the eggs, but so I'll show you that. We've got an entire 60 eggs fresh here, and then the older eggs. So what I do is I put every time I have any eggs, I'll put them in water to see and do the float test to see if I'm in any trouble there, you know. Let's take a look. That might not work. Let's see. That works. It could fall over. I think I'm going to be conscientious and put it up over here. Because I don't need that type of problem going on. So you get a little lift. But this Diet Dr. Pepper was $1. And you get that phenylalanine lift. Why do I pronounce it like that? Phenylalanine. 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 I think it's because I have these on and I can't enunciate. But this is essentially what I do, and I just do this long, slow distance, and I'll do this on average 6 to 8 hours. I eat, I get things done. This really grounds me. It puts everything into a practical mechanism. As it is, I tend to ruminate and think a lot and investigate and study things. And I'm grateful. And I feel that there is a very benevolent spiritual connection that you can garner and support. And I think unity is constantly being assaulted and blocked. And that these people who are doing these heinous things, we've all been there. Like most of the people who judge other people of these heinous crimes are doing very similar things to people. And they're like, no, I'm not. And they're so rude to people. They're so aggressive to people when they just go to a restaurant and order. If you know anyone like this, say amen. It's passive aggressive. It's hormonally charged. There's just as many old asshole men as there are women. And something supports them. They begin to see that, oh, if I do this and I'm rude here, I get something here. And they're bartering. They're playing roulette. Because eventually they're going to realize what they're doing. And it'll be impossible for them to amend themselves. So being kind isn't the key. It just turns you into a sucker. Right? So what you end up invariably having to do is to stay to yourself and keep a pure heart. And if you don't have a pure heart, but you started out with one, you need to purify that heart, that soul, that being, that becoming. And there's a lot of guilt involved when you do. So when people say, oh, what you have to do when you first wake up, to say that you just woke up is for me to say, okay, I just had this big meal with protein. very little fat. I'm in gluconeogenesis. I feel great. All right. I like gluconeogenesis above any other metabolic pathway. It's driven, and you're constantly falling in and out of it. But this is the same thing with ketosis. It's the same thing with this like fibroblast hormone secretion, FGF21 from the sugar diet. But really what you're honestly looking at is that's a big excuse. It's glycolysis. That's the metabolic pathway. And your body's trying to produce glucose. Sometimes it does it the easy way, sometimes it does it the hard way. And what people notice when they bump their carbohydrates way up. So, I mean, think about this for a second. If you have a platform like I'm talking about where you are eating beef liver, I would recommend 1/8 of a pound or under. Even splitting it in half, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that they sell it in 1 pound increments, unless you're going to a butcher or whatnot. But they sell it in one pound. I can feel the fat burning right now. This feels great. And you have to cook it up, right? You're not going to keep this bloody beef liver. It just doesn't keep well. Especially when you thaw it out from frozen, it just turns into this sort of almost viscous fluid. It's as if it just wants to become blood, honestly. Right? So, you cook that up, you eat it over 6 days. Whatever little bit you got left, throw that shit away. Right? Or feed it to someone else. You know, have it ready to share. And don't be greedy with it. That's why, since I have 1 month's right now, as of right now, I have 1 month's supply, right? I ordered 4 more, so I have 2 months. I'm really paranoid, but I'm really efficacious about keeping up on that. It's a secret that most people don't know about. Like they should. You should. Got kind of a weird thing happening with my foot. And these shoes are pretty much done. But I don't want to mess up my other shoes. I want to have some shoes that I can walk outside with. So I'll literally walk shoes into nothing until I can't even walk in them anymore. Like, these ones have been pretty good. The soles, these aren't good shoes. I got them on Amazon a couple years ago, or last year actually. But they're just crap. Most of the stuff you get is just crap these days. I hated these shoes from the first time I got them, but I will say they've held up pretty well. They almost seem like 3D printed shoes, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if they're entirely 3D printed. That's not a bad thing. Especially later, everything's going to be 3D printed. So I've trained really hard for like 5-6 days in a row. And that was a real shock to my body. I pushed myself much further than I typically would have. And then what I do is I don't cease walking. If I have body fat to lose, I don't even think about getting off of the all day walking. I continue to move. I continue to pace. I continue to walk. Now, if I go into 6 months doing that, that's overkill. That means I'm doing something wrong. Now, I understand doing that 2 years ago when I had to reestablish my fitness. But my point earlier was that just because you take 4, 5, even 6 months off, unless you completely F up on purpose and you're not focused on your diet in any way, but sometimes you need the rest. Like what I did is I got down so low, deficiently and body weight, and it was so extreme, and my skin was literally hanging off of me. Like, my body saw it as an extremely rapid change. And then I was under so much stress that I didn't realize how toxic the prior lifestyle was that I jumped back into, to where it was like, you can't do this anymore. So I lost an entire 1.5 years, you could say, but this is the thing, is that when you've trained over a certain amount of time, you've established capillary bed density. So if some time goes by, I mean, do you think that human beings were made to work out on a workout routine that's a mesocycle? No. In fact, all the training programs that conditioning coaches and specialists work with, and invariably, and what they have to know, or else they're completely disconnected, and the ones who really know this understand the primal aspect of it, it has to feed into a natural rhythm, a natural cycle. And so we even have to look around us at possible evolutionary pathways, but more than that, animals, the ontology of nature, and the good ones understand philosophy, right? They understand the higher mind concepts that go beyond sports psychology, right? So when people say, oh, that's stupid, seasonal eating, blah, 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 and it's like, all you're saying is you don't understand the phasic aspect of how this circadian rhythm and these really 7 points, 5 to 7 points, spread out and stretch out into everything. And that's like the whole hermetic thing. That once you understand this system, this base, this algorithm, you understand the hard code that reality is set on, right? And then you become dangerous, because then you can overwrite and reset things, times, places, events, right? So you will be under attack. Now, I talked about this from a quasi-spiritual perspective, is the thing that wards off attacks is iron. It's iron. Like, people won't believe it until they're spiritually attacked and it's gone on for years, or they're thinking about the secret self, the private self that they have, right? And how most people have a deviant self that lives fine and well in them. They're never going to give it up, right? It's just their naughty self, It's just a girl trying to misbehave a little bit. Doesn't she deserve it, right? Does she answer to anyone when she does that? Is there really a bottom limit? It's kind of like indecent proposal. It's basically you have this Faustina. That's what the name Faust comes from, right? You have this Faustina deal. So that whole story of Faust, if you don't understand Faustina, Marcus Aurelius' wife, if you don't get that, how everything switched and flipped, right? It's inverted. It's an inverted world. Meaning when it's saying man or Satan, Satan's a woman. It's a feminine concept. It's a feminine theme. It's about allowing your lesser primal role to take over. They're tied, they like Friedrich Nietzsche, he's looking at it. The women do not like to do not look under my dress and finery, to paraphrase what Nietzsche stated. In other words, oh yeah, you can go through this eugenics. You can create a populist movement, especially if I'm on top, or, get free stuff out of it, buying a stairway to heaven, so to speak, but quite literally, and to lead into, different conceptualizations. But I don't really want to have that conversation right now. It'll absorb you. And the point is things are very simple. You work with what you have, and then you let principles guide you back to the way things should be. And the problem is that they may never, especially in this world, they may never have been pure, and they may never return to purity, right? A radical transformation would need to take place. A consciousness, a revolution, a revival that you would see in bugs and plants. You would see a conscious bridge between every living creature. You would be able to understand, to some level, harmonize and exchange, truths. We would learn from every living being. And yeah, it does get into kind of an animism, but it does bridge more toward a Platonism, right? This is my everyday. If it's your first time tuning in. Yeah, I went off the script of doing, even though, it's not a lot, but it's like 20 or 30 views, sometimes 100, up to 100, just walking and talking. And this is where, that's why, primarily why I'm, one of the many reasons of why I document and record myself, is because I can go back later. But even more so, as I'm going through this, there's kind of a recollection and a recording to myself, or into the field of what I'm doing, what my focus are, and how many hours I put into this, So yeah, I just kept losing weight back in 2023. I wasn't doing the body weight exercises. I was doing a lot of sitting. I hated what I was doing. I was trying to live with it. At first, I was going to try and gain back some positive weight, but there really isn't a way to do that. You're always going to gain some fat with muscle. And so when you lose your muscle mass, right, you can't be so focused and dialed in that you're 100% based around the scale dropping. But I mean, that's easier said than done, right? Because it gives you such a goal. And when I looked at myself in the mirror a couple years ago, or last year, exactly last year, my lower body was so anorexic and asymmetrically shifted that I could see all the bones as if I just walked out of a concentration camp. Now, the upper body was a little more preserved, but I still had a little bit of hanging skin and fat. Well, that's what the unhealthy aspects of the carnivore diet does to you. Is it can be one of the most unhealthy things that you've ever done in your life. And that's why I do these based around what I understand, what I know, and I try to coach people in. Because I really do believe, I don't think that one phase, gluconeogenesis, ketosis, glycolysis, I don't think you're meant to stay in one phase over the other. We had some coffee, Diet Dr. Pepper, we're doing water. So ChatGPT reminded me, you want to stay in gluconeogenesis, better not to choose the soy, right? And then I remembered to always add in, and of course garlic. I'm not sure where I thought I ordered some garlic. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I might have to add that to my list tomorrow. I try to really stay up on the garlic. Garlic is so pivotal. It's so important for your blood system. And people are starting to see that. They're starting to gain an awareness, because if you don't teach, if you don't instruct, if you don't have an awareness of your physiology, of your organs, how your organs are working together, quite honestly, people would become hyper paranoid about their liver and their kidney health if they understood how everything works together. And they would be overly concerned about their microbiome, right? Their intestines, their colon, their stomach, spleen. They would start to, their pancreas, right? Everything, their endocrine system, all 9 layers of the human body, right? And then they would begin to understand better why they're misfiring, why the circuitry of their nervous system from the CNS to the PNS is misfiring, right? And even more so, the way that you want to train yourself. Like, I'm basically creating loaded guns where people just go off and do a video on their own and think, oh yeah, thanks for the nuggets. Now I know what to ask ChatGPT, and then trying to sound all highbrow as they're going through, sucking their cheeks in, holding the phone and walking through their neighborhood. That's the first telltale sign that somebody's been indoctrinated today. There's always something. It's this chasing of the bourgeois that doesn't exist. The bourgeoisie does not exist. It's an illusion, and you're supporting it by doing those stupid videos. And anybody who jumped on that sugar diet is a fucking wreck. Do not follow anybody who started their channel off with the sugar diet as the moniker. Run the other way. You are trying to stay uninformed. You're trying to do this feel-good program. You need empirical, pragmatic evidence. You need to get real with yourself. So, yeah, really, electrolytes are so important. Looking at saltatory conduction, right? And that's the beauty of these Bragg's amino acids, right? And that's the beauty of, it's probably the worst advice I could give people, but it's like, when you look at aspartame, when you look at phenylalanine, they're amino acids. And so what most people don't look at least these studies that are done, what if I just ate a shit ton of protein? What if I even had a protein drink? Do you think that my body is metabolizing those minuscule amount of aspartame, and do you think it's going to disrupt my collagen digestion or even collagen synthesis? You think it's really going to throw off that magnitude, that amount of proline and glycine, trifold envelopes? Do you think it's really going to do anything? It's not going to do jack shit. Amino acids compete with one another. It just washes it away. So particularly when you're doing a G&G driven diet, and your body will stay predominantly in G&G, but my point earlier was there isn't just one state of mind. There isn't just being woke. Like, as soon as you wake up in this world, you're partially not woke anymore. Like, you're back into the lie. What is that percentage slide? Right? How much can you handle? And that's where most people try to get real, like an Owen Wilson sort of character. Get real, man. I'm salt of the earth. Not really, are you? You're not really salt of the earth. Not really. You posture yourself that way. So the same holds true with your dietary conditional status or state. It's always in flux. It's always on this slide. It's always on this ruler. And really, you have all these rulers, and then you have other things happening that are really creating this alchemical sway, between alkaline and acid reactions in certain areas of your body. And you can tell a lot by your gut health, bile, right? Enzymes. So many times people become way too reliant on, and I like the direction that's going in, is that a lot of the experts are saying whole foods. Hell yeah. So what are we really talking about when we talk about a high carbohydrate diet? What are we really, really saying? We're not talking about monosaccharides and high sugar spikes. We're talking about now you're foraging for fiber. That comes first. Then you have your starchy fibers, your soluble, your insoluble fibers, right? You want to break those up. And if you really plan it out right, between all the beans and the mushrooms and the bok choy and the carrots and the corn, when you look at it all, that's an expensive diet, number one. The only way you'd be able to afford that is if you go for the canned foods, and they're not as bad as you think, and frozen fruits and vegetables. And that's what I invariably was. So this is why people go for the table sugar. They realize, I'm not going to get the number of calories I need. And even more so, once you get up to that 5,000 calorie range and you're really trying to eat for your performance, and you're going to have to go up to 5,500 calories when you finally realize, men or women, what you really need to do and what's really happening with your body is that you're under eating, you're deficient, and once you take care of those deficiencies, your body feels weak. How do you get it strong? You start to work with it. You look at those planes of motion, you look at the weaknesses, you start in on mobilization, working your rotator cuff, working your hip cuff, right? And you get into stabilization, those muscle fascicles, the firing pattern, really your musculotendinous junctions, right? Those all need to go through. Stretching, right? And people often stay stuck in this phase, and then they'll just flit in and out of doing too much of one thing or the other, right? Farting in a yoga class. Sticking their ass in there and sweating, disgusting. We won't even get into it. But you see my point? Like, this is just a beautiful thing. This is base. This is lunar base right here. You could do this in a spaceship in space if you have gravity, artificial gravity. You could do this on any planet if you have the same gravity. But it's like no matter where you are in the universe, as long as some of these constants holds true, but you'd be moving. Like you could move your legs. You could exercise. But as you move your legs, there's not going to be as much resistance. And so you're actually effectively weakening yourself, right? Yeah, we're not going to succumb to overdoing it on that delicious diet. Dr. Thunder. Almost said Dr. Pepper. Yeah, Dr. Thunder. So, my kids are going to take me out, I think this weekend, or thereabouts, to Superman. I saw the previews for that, and I was thinking that that's the same way I felt about Henry Cavill before I knew about him as a superb actor. But I also saw him in Witcher, and I saw what was happening there. I saw he fell off the political radar. The first 2 seasons were amazing. His acting was superb. And then there's a lot of internal sabotage going on there that borders on the spiritual. Maybe it's real spiritual. But then it just got really bad. It's kind of like what Supernatural went through, where that used to be such a good show. And it lost itself. Everything becomes like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's just, it's just a train wreck, I gotta turn on this fan. This place gets hot like a hotbed. Oh yeah, that's cooler already. That's nice. Damn, that pressure just hurt my ear. Crazy. So I'll probably record this for, if it's still going, let's see how much time we got on there already. Yeah, 48 minutes. So that's almost an hour that I've been walking there. And with the turns and all that, maybe 2.5 miles. Sometimes it's less, right? Not quite yet. It's probably just over 2 miles. But when you do this all day long and you go back to it, so times like 6 or 7, right? And that's where I'm typically at. And I can feel it working. So my point earlier also, one of those side trails was that you're not just going to lose all your muscle overnight, and even more so when you appear to you worked out real hard for 6, 9, 12 months. You thought you made some really good impacting changes. Your metabolism's going crazy. Everything's good, right? You really need to work on metabolic flexibility at that point, what I was talking about, where you're on this sliding scale and you're, no matter if you are in glycolysis or ketosis, you're still going to eat protein and you're still going to go through G&G spikes. It's normal. In fact, it's not like throwing you into an entirely different metabolic pathway. G&G sort of drives along gluconeogenesis. So It doesn't throw you out of anything, right? So that's what you use as a transitionary tool for everything, and that's what everyone's missing. And that's how I stayed shredded and ripped. I'll admittedly say that because there wasn't much glycogen in my muscles at any given time, and when I would want to do pictures, I would eat glycogen and I would just blow up. I would blow up. Like, people would not believe that I was down to the body weight I was. They'd say, no, you're 205 pounds at least, man. Right? I wasn't. I'd get down to about 165 pounds, and was about perfect for me. And once I get down there, right, and I'm well muscled, right, meaning systemically all around. But you're never trying to stay in one metabolic phase dominantly. You're understanding that you're drifting in and out. Now, to gain control of this and to really exercise your will, which is very difficult for most people, right? It's like they got to have a little fat, little this. So when you're doing all this exercise, what's your body going to be able to deal with more? Carbohydrate cravings, right? When you have a couple asparagus and peas, what are you going to want to do as soon as you sit down? You're going to want to grab that rice and have a good meal, maybe cut up some potatoes, right? And so it's deciding to yourself if there's a time for that. And your biggest choice is, how hard do I want to work again in my lifetime? Because you see what you have to go through. Have you seen how many times I've done this? Well, imagine doing this hundreds of times in your lifetime. Fucking up, doing this and that, but it's not really a fuck up. It's stress, outside influences, things that come along. Sometimes it's just fuck ups. Like this time, it really was a fuck up, but I was on ChatGPT all the time, but I wasn't asking it crucial questions. And that's what I'm trying to tell people is, like, look at where I admittedly messed up, right? But you want to get the muscle fascicles firing. You don't want to lose fascia. You want to keep blood flow going through an area. You want to keep that collagen coming in, right? The collagen's a really important one. It really is for real. But your body will produce that. And when you're taking in synergists like cysteine or cysteine, proline, glycine, all those amino acids that are really repairing your skin, your hair, your nails, right? Those are so crucial, so important, that vitamin C is behind that as well, along with vitamin B's, magnesium, but vitamin C is so crucial. Vitamin C is so important. And then I'm going to take more vitamin C. And let's see, I haven't had any magnesium, so we'll do a little magnesium. Just going to do one of everything today. I'm going to do one Tongkat Ali and one creatine. And then we're waiting for the trimethylglycine, which is going to fill in and make a huge difference for the posing. Posing, like you look like a joke for the longest time. People love to laugh, and then they don't look in the mirror and realize just how pathetic we are when we judge other people. Looks can be deceiving. So that trimethylglycine will be here in a couple days. Looking very much forward to that. I had great results with that. Yeah, there were claims that it was like a PED, right? And then I think it really depends on your state of conditioning. but I felt it. Like there's this thing that happens rarely when I'll take a supplement over the years. I felt that a little bit there was this supplement years ago called Smilax. I don't know what the fuck was in that stuff. You took it sublingually. But that shit just fucked with your hormones. It was probably steroids. I probably took steroids way before I even thought I did. I even took this stuff called gamma oryzanol, but I think all that resulted in is boosting up your estrogens. In fact, I think I did those around the same time, and it just effed me all up. I was crying and feeling all crazy, and I'm working out, and it's messing my workouts up, right? But my point is, there's been a few things that then the original Tribulus Tribex, this stuff called bovine serum that was really just beef liver back in the day. It was sold by proteinfactory.com. And then there was this stuff called Atrofex. And you won't find any of these things anymore. You'll find Tribulus. Like I think I just took some Tribulus in with that Tongkat Ali, but years go by and they'll do studies. Like, so I thought that the Tribulus, the Tribex, was the mediatory agent that was really driving my strength, because I was doing this around the same time. And I would have never thought in 1,000 years, because it didn't make any real claims. I was just trying to increase the bioavailable protein that was just in the inception into my cells, and hearing claims, really liking the products that proteinfactory.com from back in the day. Like I said, I don't even think that's anything anymore. I'll have to look it up. In fact, that's the beauty of doing this walking, is like, let's literally check it out, right? Right? Oh, you can't zoom in. Then let's go like this. It still doesn't want to zoom in. Weird. Okay, it's overly zooming in. Yeah, let's check that out for a second. Let's say proteinfactory.com. And I'll do this. I'll chill. Can you do this when you're walking outside? Can you just sit down and go on the computer? So let's punch that in. Protein Factory. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's out of business. Oh, no, there it is. It still is in business, and it's still the same. How could I be so lame? I've been telling people it closed a long time ago, but this guy knows his stuff, Alex. Been buying from this guy on and off for years. And they have amazing supplements. Pump in the gym, power in the bedroom. So that's probably the beetroot stuff that I've had. I threw some of that away recently. Patagonia. So this would probably be really good as a nitric oxide booster. Very vascular. If I come up with any money, I'm going to be ordering through this amazing supplements. Unleashing natural strength. Why unleash LJ100 or ultimate natural alternatives to steroids? Yeah. And a lot of this stuff really does work, but you have to look at the aromatization risks. Yeah, there's Alex. This guy knows his shit. Let's look. Let's look at that article. This guy really knows his stuff. It's nice to see that he succeeded. And I definitely want to go in here and look for his protein. I had no idea he was still in business. I think what led me to that was I saw that it was hard to get on, that his website looked like it really waned about 5 years ago. And it almost looked like he was shutting down, and then I saw that he was selling products on Amazon, and then I couldn't find him anymore, and I thought naturally he closed shop. That's from taking the vitamin C and stuff. How fermentation technology will revolutionize whey protein by 2026. Oh, he is so on the cutting edge. Yeah. Yeah, he has dedicated his life. Yeah, look at this. He's just pushing that Patagonia. I'm going to try that if I can. That's got to be... His prices were always good, too. Like, he could have charged 2 or 3 times. So if you go up here, he has this set up very... So let's see. This would be weight gainers. This would be under testosterone, probably. So unleashed. Let's see. So yeah, he has these kits. Look at that. There's the tribulus. I mean, that stuff will... But this is where I got that beef liver. So this is where you would get the really good protein supplements. Look at this, beef protein. Let's see if he still has it. Let's see here. Does IGF-1 and bioserum? I think that's it. Oh, my God. I think that is the... Yeah, that's... You can't find it. That's interesting. Beef protein. Let's see what he's got here. Fat loss supplements. Muscle. I think it would be under muscle. Okay, so here's the Patagonia. $50. Guarantee you'll be spending more than that on steroids and have a lot worse time when you're going through PCT coming off those things. Yeah, none of his supplements are BS. He thoroughly studies everything, understands every little molecular detail. If you're ever going to trust anyone or buy from anyone, it's this Alex Rogers, I think it is. Triple berry formula, freeze dried, sports. I'll have to be looking into that, though. Maybe I'll do a little spread on that. Buy with G. Yeah, he gives you all these different ways to pay. What a great business. So he was located in New Jersey for the longest time. And I've always looked up to what he's doing and wanted to do something very similar to this. Maybe working in a similar field. I mean, really, before I even got into training people for the long period of time that I did, this was one of the people that I looked up to in the industry. So yeah, you saw it here. Got to get back to my walk before it. And let's see what else we got here as far as whey protein blends. This would be the way to go here. The way to go get it. So night protein. So that would probably be more casein. So you're growing through the night kind of thing. Growth pro-peptides, 5 pounds. That's more serious. Like you really have to take smaller amounts of this stuff. He'll tell you. CPC, I would think. What is that? Creatine? Probably protein. Yeah, phytosterol free protein powder blend. Interesting. Yeah, it's come such a long way. Oh, this bioserum. Goodness. Is that what it was called? Was it bioserum? Bioserum Black is a protein blend of Bioserum 1 and whey protein isolate. The formulated Bioserum Black with taste in mind. We understand that some people cannot tolerate bad taste protein drinks, so we created Bioserum Black to solve this problem. We solved the problem by combing Bioserum. And that's what I thought the bovine serum was, I think, a bioserum. Yep. Yeah, this stuff, that's a lifesaver. The bioserum is, let's see what it's made from. Protein specifically made. And it does taste absolutely horrible. Yeah, so I mean, essentially, I think that is really close to beef liver. And I don't think you're supposed to take more, definitely not any more of But you see, you could spend some money, but look at his prices have never gone up. And I honestly, so post-cycle, that means that he is thinking about people who are on cycle. SARMs, yeah. Yeah, all of the legal stuff. But he was always a big advocate to people, even though he did tailor to all creeds. He was a big advocate of, and let's see what he's got under amino acids, of natural bodybuilding. BCAA power is one of the highest quality free-form amino acids that you can buy. Typically, I do not recommend free-form amino acids. Yeah, because they can really go... so because my advanced BCAA blows it out of the water, it has more amino acids, and they are in peptide form, which I believe in much more absorbable than free-form aminos. Yeah, and so like we talk about, amino acids compete with one another. If you're really looking into amino acids, you're going to be looking into a base amino acid profile or program that is healed with amino acids and nutrients. Billy J. Saley stuff. Let's flip that around. Yeah, this is already running way past an hour here, so we'll go back into a little walk and then we'll end it so it's not too long. But by the end of the day, you can kind of check yourself, take care of some investigation, take care of some business. Usually I'll get off the phone so I can charge it up a little bit. I'll go online, I'll look things up, I'll research, I'll probably look up more of proteinfactory.com. I wish I had money. I'd be buying from them. The other thing I need to do is get some kettlebells going, because that's really the missing component to being able to work your shoulders and being able to work that power portion. And really all you need at that point is just you need to get on a good stretching program, and you need to focus in on your TRX. But you got TRX and bands where you can add resistance and so forth. You honestly don't need anything more. And you want to take time off. Like what I notice as one gets older is we tend to want to train really hard while we can, and then take it almost an equal amount of time off to recover. And obviously when that recovery time lessens and it just becomes sort of this nice, wave pattern, that's when you can really proclaim your fitness and say, yeah, I'm like right now, this is the first couple of days where I'm just dropping off on the appetite. I just don't have the appetite, right? Being a good trainer, you're going to bring to people's attention and study up on things that you never remember later. Like, I shouldn't say never, but it's like people are so, when you're a high profile trainer, what you're doing is so exclusive. This is a little BS, but this is how it should go. Is that you should study up on your client as much as you possibly can so that you can tailor fit everything you're doing, and then always keep them in mind. And this is why you have to have a limited number of clients, and invariably people have to pay that for that. That's the caveat. That's the caviar service that you require when you get up to these higher levels. But then you get to a place like Jeff Bezos or something where it's like, oh, you can't really tell me what to do. I don't really have to do what you tell me to do, and I could actually have you murdered instantly. Right? You get to some mofo like this where it's like, you couldn't do business with someone like that. They think they're beyond good and evil. And they are evil because they're paying into the system that enslaves everyone, and they are a part of that system. They're part of that mind. And the fact that they don't see it makes them even more dangerous. And no, I don't. I just ordered from Amazon, but I don't typically. Man, Amazon's gone downhill. This is the first time where I've ordered some things because it appears cheaper. I don't know if it actually is, but I got some Pop-Tarts for my son and some like almond bars, so that when they are hanging out and stuff, they can snack. And I don't feel tempted to eat that stuff at all. I am kind of wondering, should I can just feel the fat burning off my body though. It's insane. I can feel the rush of the fat coming off. And every time I've gone in to walking over the past weeks, I can feel that. It's insane. It's like it's very intense fat burning. It's undeniable. Like I know what that feels like because I've recently done this. Yeah, that right foot and the arch, the shoes are not really providing the type of support. I'm thinking I got some really nice inserts in my other shoes, and the inserts aren't, I used to like breaking my inserts down because it formed into the shape of my foot, right? So I think what I'll be doing is I'll be taking those inserts out and just putting them in these crappy shoes, and I'll probably end up getting months more walking use out of these shoes, and then I won't be breaking down my arch, because that is kind of where I'm going with it. But yeah, at this point I kind of pick up tempo, and I mean, when I'm not recording it, I just space out, right? So let me tell you how small-minded and shallow you are, and how you're going to look at this later and you're going to notice it only has 5 views. And it's probably me who viewed it or clicked on it by mistake or something, right? But you're going to go in and look at this for information later when my shirt comes off and I'm like walking and training. And you're going to go, I wonder how. So it's a tapestry of how it all comes together. And a lot of times on YouTube channels, someone's story is, there's so many people with chronic illnesses, you know, and some people's channels launch from exploiting or talking about their chronic illnesses, and they suddenly get 50, 60,000 subscribers, right? But it's a tie-in of life, remedy, how you're working with those multifarious details in life, doxastic if you're really looking at it ontologically and breaking it down from an epistemological sense, dissecting it, seeing the science behind it, the system, the formula. And they want you to think that it's so complex, but it really isn't. And it's this ebb and flow where you're, you know, eventually you're training so much that you're looking at everything that goes in your body, but you are very aware of the calories you're taking in and trying to keep meals small. But eventually what happens is you can have a handful of nuts and think about the total protein in that. You might do a little algae and a little nori, right? And then the next meal you might have some you know, full cultured Greek yogurt and maybe some wild honey on that, right? But what you find yourself doing when you're fit is you're not gaining any fat, your metabolism's going crazy, and you're eating small meals. And then when you do sit down and eat, you might sit down and eat some prime rib, right, to fuel yourself up, but you're thinking of your meal in context to the training you just did, the training you're about to do. And metabolism is exactly as it sounds. You're somewhere between anabolism and catabolism. And that's the main thing that people are losing reference of when they think about ketosis, G&G. It's just a driven, but I'm bridging it. That's why I'm bringing it up next. And then glycolysis, right? So you're thinking about the anabolism and the catabolism that's occurring and what stage you're sort of sliding into, in and out of. And I stayed in predominantly G and G, so ketosis, and then I'd switch into a glycolysis G and G blend. So you look at how often am I in gluconeogenesis, and then you start to look at, okay, I'm working out. There's a big relationship with cortisol, right? So I'm producing the stress. My body's learning how to deal with the stress. I'm taking the vitamin C all around the clock in. I'm eating the beef liver. I have everything I need. Right now, my body's breaking down all the constituents from the sardines I had. The only thing that I didn't have, that I might even not have, that I had yesterday, that I'm seeing a little negativity from, but I know that at 2 or 3 eggs, I'm not going to see that negativity. So when I get into eating like 5 or 6 eggs and I'm heavily fatting it with butter and olive oil, it's too much. Like if that's too much for you when you're slightly overweight like me right now, which quite honestly, I'm about 7 pounds away from being in a prime state. I'm hitting my window in 7 pounds. Right? I'll be about 173. I'm right in my bracket. So there's like a sliding scale, and your body loses that. It doesn't know exactly how much body fat it has. It's trying to go into the best utilization through metabolic process and function. So when you put this demand on it, you don't just lose that, right? Sometimes your fitness can work against you, and you'll see this with a lot of athletes that you know that get injured, especially if their injury requires them to recover and eat. And the doctor's saying, you need to be eating carbohydrates. You got to get back to and then all of a sudden, they just blow up. Right? They just blow up. So weird. Yeah, I was just reflecting on this guy that I was raised with. He's a really high level competitive cyclist. I hate talking about him because his son is such a cocky douchebag now that I can't even go there. Like, he's just so, makes you want to throw up, really. But this guy ended up being quite a bit more humble than his son, actually, and really can't stand his son. Like, right? There's a point where you do get more humble, but there's a little dogma and a little piety. But I honestly don't think that's bad. I think anything that really separates you from other people and starts to make you go, I'm pushing this away from me. But I think what he recognizes the internal satanic attacks that occur, right? And I think he started to see this and feel this at a rare, because we mistake the spiritual entity that tries to pose as us. And then we realize when we really get to know ourselves from a pure sense, like a child of God perspective, that really isn't a perspective. It's not like looking at yourself from a parallax view. It's like, no, you're really looking out going, this is a scary world. And even more so, I'm inside a scary body that's of the world. How do I deal with this? And you pull away. And that's a big part of just being able to walk inside, right? But I was thinking about him, and he was in a coma for like weeks. I remember people coming and visiting him. I think it was like 3 weeks or something. And my own mother would hang out with him all day, but she was perving on him. He was all juiced up on these steroids, acting like he wasn't popping Anavar like it was going out of style. You could see he's doing equipoise, Anavar, probably gas bus. And if he's going to do that, he had to be on a testosterone stack. And he'd been doing steroids for many years and then lying about it. I never thought I'd see the day where people would actually admit to it. They do it when it's conformist, when the conformist consensus, like this channel, that's why I call it consensus. Because it's about the consensus. All of YouTube, it's about the consensus. It's a disgusting thing. It tries to even itself out. It tries to argue with itself. It tries to justify itself. It never can and it never does. The amalgamation, the open source information. Crow flew by. Yeah, it's a really nice day. I try to open the door up and let my eyes adjust to the ocular input, the insulin. I mean I just saw a fly and that pissed me off. But the amino acid boost really makes a big difference. Let's see if a fly will fly back out if I open it. Yeah, that fly flew up somewhere and sat down. They're like, I'm in a weird environment. Let's sniff and smell everything and see what the hell we can get into, right? Now I'm all paranoid about it. But yeah, I'm supposed to be getting a what is that? I'm supposed to be getting a package, getting 20 pounds of rice delivered. So my son eats a lot of rice. And I eat rice when. So I eat this brand. It is Mahatma. Yeah, that rice brand. So we're gonna just do about. Yeah, let's end it at an hour and a half. But I'm telling you, what I'm trying to show you is how easy it is, and this is your base, right? And then you got this. Here's the other base right here. Okay, so you got tuna packed in water, right? You got sardines packed in water. You got beef liver packed in blood, because when you open that up, when you thaw it out, it ain't nothing but blood, man. Yeah. Under $3 for that whole thing. Chicken I don't want to pull out. And then you got eggs. And honestly, that is the diet. That's the diet whether you're in glycolysis or you're going into ketosis. You're not going to worry about that. That'll be anywhere between 15 and 30% of your diet, depending on how many calories you take in. But here's the caveat. You can do that as a diet. You take in 2 or 3 eggs, the beef liver and the sardines, that's 600 calories. Add in a can of tuna. There's so few calories, it's just all protein. You're taking in 700 or 800 calories. You don't need anything else. You will get shredded off that diet alone. Now, when you really want to boost up, right, and make sure you're getting in everything you need, like say you're starting to take beta alanine, you're really getting into you get this buzz, this high off gluconeogenesis. When you're in there longer than the average person, longer than you should be, you're not slipping into some metabolic pathway, like you're not succumbing to the fat and going right into ketosis, but you always have those ketone bodies when you're eating that way. because there's some fat in there, right? And if that's all your body has as far as macronutrients go, it's going to use up the protein backbones, the carbon skeletons, to simplify it, and it's going to go in and use up that fat too, right? So you're getting everything in there. And then I just took in, while I was on this, not live stream, but while the recording was running, I went in and I took vitamin C and magnesium and a whole skew of vitamins there. The beauty of beef liver is you're taking in all your B vitamins in one shot. Sure, you could do more. So what I'm going to do is I'll be doing the TMG, trimethylglycine, in a day and a half, day after tomorrow. I've got a bow to try and sell, and you can't just put those on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm hoping to get top dollar for it, which might not be all that much, but I've got bills to pay, phone bill. I got to keep myself floating, because although I really believe in what I'm doing right now, for the first time in forever, I feel, the body feels like it did when I was in my 30s, my late 20s, early 30s. I don't feel like I'm sloshing around in this fat suit and like, where did I go? What, right? I would say one of the main things that I noticed is I lost a lot of bone mass. Quiz question: how much does the average 206 bone human body weigh? Bing, 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 bing. Bing, 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 bing. Okay. So between 18 and 22 pounds. 18 and 22 pounds. So your average 150 pound person, which it's not like your bone structure is just going to randomly grow another 10 pounds if you're larger than that. Okay. So, but it should, in your human physiology that's in relative balance and order. And trust me, 150 pounds is actually a lot. If you did all the things that you were supposed to do through the day, if you had to do all your own chores, do everything on your own, get around, do this, do that. If you were a functional human being, you'd weigh an average of about 150 pounds at 6 feet tall. That'd be you. That'd be you. You could go down to 135 pounds if you're a runner or, doing a lot of endurance training. You could go up to 165 pounds if you're really bulking up right? But when you're in balance, that's your average weight. And only 10, really, women are identified as anywhere between 8 and like 11% of their total body weight, right? And men are a little higher, up to like 14, 15% of their total body weight. But not much is bone. And you think that's really what everything's based on, right? When you dig in deep and you get down to what we really are, who we really are, and then you look at the trabecular bone, the cortical bone, and the blood, where the blood is made in your bone, you're looking at it going, right? And you really are your blood system. You really are your bone, or are you the nervous system that surrounds it and works as an intermediary? This gets into philosophy and where you see yourself. But are you that nervous system? Are you the skin? That's an organ, right? So when you get it, or are you the glands? Are you more of the glandular secretions, excretions? Which really is a primal aspect to your primal self, right? So just within yourself, you have this electrified being. You have the primal state of your glandular system and the secretions. And even in your brain's sort of at odds with one another. And that's how people feel, right? When you look at your amygdala and your limbic system and your caudate patanum and all this stuff, you know, that's kind of working as an intermediary, right? And then you look at the neocortex and you look at this battle between the left and right brain hemispheres and hemispherical disruptions with electrical impulses, bipolarity. You know, when you're beginning to look at all this kind of stuff, it's pretty crazy. But the craziest thing is how evil people can be and how they can justify the abuse and the idea that they're gods over your average person, simply because someone wasn't raised with the means nor the idea, the temerity and hubris to think like Alexander the Great, who I think was not so great, who thought he was a god. So you really want to focus in on that magnesium and the absorbable, metabolizable forms of calcium that you find in with eggs, but you know, the sardines, huge, crucial. So that's about 700 to 800 calories that you've got for the day. You've got it covered. You don't need anything else, and you could do a 1 meal a day like that. You could spread it out, you know? But like right now, when you actually lose your appetite, that's a good thing. Because sometimes you'll be working out for so long before you actually lose your appetite. And when you lose it, it's an indicator. And I think I ate something a little bad yesterday, and that's what turned off this metabolic like hunger. But in shutting that metabolic hunger off, my body was already wanting to get to that place. It kind of coincided all around at the same time. And then my son, Antonio, he walked in with all this steak, this high quality, really expensive steak. And I was like, that's perfect. Thank you, son. I love you. Love you so much. Thank you for fueling me up. It was the perfect transitional meal. It helped me so much. And we're all dreaming of going up to that higher status. And obfuscation and annubilation and this mercurial fat that's just like hoarding over us. We tend to think that overnight we lost everything, and it just doesn't work like that. Like your body's so hyper responsive that fat you put on the outside of your muscle, and you think you just lost everything because you didn't train for 6 months. I have news for you. You still have that fitness. You know, once you go back into what you were doing before and really exercising your motor neurons to go about a certain function, once you get back in there, just like I did, like when I started walking again, I thought, oh man, I'm starting out from square one. Guess what? I started walking right away after many months of being off from walking, probably more than 6 months. But after not walking regularly, I just jumped right back into it. And whether I've been really well fed, I haven't been poorly fed. I felt very grateful, and I have felt zero food insecurity. I hopped on benefits as soon as, like I'm hyper aware of that and very grateful for that. But I'm trying not to waste my time. Like if I'm not thinking anything, doing anything, or have resources to do anything else, I get walking. And I transformed myself last time. But I was deficient. It showed in my skin color. It showed in the gray hairs. Because prior to that, just months before, I was showing serious signs of reverse aging. Like, if you look back, there are videos there where it's like, holy shit, this guy looks like he's in his late 30s. Like, I honestly turned that clock back for a little while. I didn't know what it was that I was missing, or, you know, why is it that I could only maintain that for so long, and then all of a sudden it's slipping away. And this is when you think that the quality of food. So what I was getting is when you eat really high quality beef, which I ordered some that's coming tomorrow, some Angus beef, but I don't think it's as good as those shack burgers I was eating. I also ordered a mainstay that I'm not going to be gorging on, but I'm going to enjoy it with a cup of coffee and some heavy cream. But that's not going to be like the thing that drives me. It's going to be very infrequent. Is I ordered bacon. Bacon, it just does it for me. It does something with the metabolism. So when I'm feeling like I got to get fueled, instead of jumping over and going into glycolysis, when I'm fitter down the road, which might not be that long, but I can see myself next year in 9 months. Let's make that a plan. I can see myself rolling out, having a big salad that I think about everything that's going in there. I'm creating like a vinaigrette, I'm thinking, right? With apple cider vinegar, maybe a little white vinegar, who knows, right? Maybe some probiotics, make a little dressing, just throw it on the top. Have a big old salad with some dark leafy greens, some garbanzo beans, some black beans, right? And I'll eat, and I'll fill myself up. And I'm going back to train. With my kids, we're all in the sports center, and everything's great and dandy. We're on cloud 9. The wicked witches are dead. The house has landed on them. My ex-wife and my mother, right? One can only dream, right? And along with a lot of other really evil people who know who they are. And true balance has been restored. And the channel's just clicking. Things are starting to do great. I'm assisting people. I'm helping people. They're starting to watch this, and it's been sitting up there for 9-10 months. They're going back, watching the old stuff, going, oh, yeah, this guy's, he's been doing it. He's been doing it with the most meager means. Anyone can do it, right? Wow, he went from that to that naturally at his age. Boom. Whoa, wow, okay. Is that what we live for, the existential? No. This one's running really late, right? Well, we'll let it go. I do one every now and then like this, but this is kind of like giving you a brief rundown, and I almost have to use the restroom. It's about time, right? It's getting there. I was halfway thinking that the rice was going to show up. But like that rice, just like this bag of rice here, I did eat a little bit of that a while back, maybe. But yeah, weeks ago. I've been on in ketosis, carnivore, for going on 3 weeks. I think it's been 19 days. Yeah, 19 days. So I'm still considering myself in ketosis, even though I'm predominantly going into gluconeogenesis. What I tried last time, and I think it actually helped me with my fitness, is I tried to do more fat and pull back on the protein. And pulling back on your protein is never a good idea. There's never any reason for it, and you're going to see your performance drop off, and it's going to affect you for quite a while, right? The beauty about doing beef liver is it's got that sort of protein, especially when you're eating beef and maybe even bacon around the same time and you're in ketosis. It really brings you back up to that status. It builds your blood back up, right? And vitamin C boosts it up. And then I'm taking liquid minerals. It's all clicking. I'm so grateful, you know. I'm so grateful to have the resources like ChatGPT to ask the questions. I'm grateful to know the right questions to ask. And I'm grateful for where I am and what my son is providing for me, and that I want to be able to give back just like it was, you know, the year prior. After being a pain in the ass, I was able to get him some things, but it still wasn't nearly enough. And I look forward to being able to do something very similarly this time around, and just to get to a place where I'm leveled out, you know? And so like Eek Acres. I think it's Kevin. Yeah, you know, he really represents something really positive. So, and the positive aspect is he's making $5,000 or $6,000 a month, doesn't have a house payment, right? Doesn't have a car payment. So it literally is money that he's able to save because his health is really on the risk because he has one kidney and he's still suffering from a lot of issues with that from what he's, you know, talking about. And, you know, those medical services and getting really good insurance can be very costly, and having that sort of buffer, that's warranted, you know. He's been real solid. That's the type of people that I wish I was around and raised with and from. I wish that I was around those good Pennsylvania folk that still had a lot of the old country still in them, you know. Because that's the feeling you get from New York and Pennsylvania, you know, in the more rural out stretches of the East Coast. You see that. And I've always wanted to follow my roots back to that area. When my family first came here from Fungstead, but I've seen others, but I'm directly related to Philip Marsteller. I found this stuff out before, I just forgot it. Who was in command under General George Washington. Yeah, he was one of the pallbearers. There were two Marstellers that were pallbearers. He did business with Washington, and I believe that he was also a Mason. And I thought for a while that my family line were against the Masons and didn't, right? But when you go back that far, the Masons probably represented something very different, right? They probably were allowing the flip of the coin, and things have turned out. I think if you could take a Mason from way back then, and I really have always contended that I don't believe Albert Pike meant what people thought he meant. It meant you had to really look deeper at it, and that we needed each other. We needed a collective to drag. We couldn't just drag ourselves out of the profane, beastly state of mind that we were all in, and that we needed principles that unfortunately aren't inherent and intrinsic. They are. That's the bizarre thing. All the evil. Yeah, we'll get rid of that stink a little bit, right? All the evil comes from out there, but all the good can come out here. All the balance, right? But yeah, I miss a place that I never physically, personally, just in myself, that I never was. It's hard to believe all that information is carried through the sperm, right? All that information. And I think that a lot more is unfolded when we're around the right people that can unfold the knowledge and the wisdom, really, right? And when you're neglected and abused like I was, it sets you up for a lifetime of issues. And then when you are laughed at and looked down upon, ostracized, made fun of, you're set up, you know. That brings in a whole nother aspect to it. So, you know, there are terrible role models, and when you begin to recognize this, which I never took that step, is where you roll your eyes and you're going, I'll never be a role model. I don't want to be a role model. And then you think, I can't be a role model because I'm corrupted myself. And then you get to this place where you're like, wow, I'm really realizing how tough this world is and how misled people are and how they are constantly being seduced. And some people go into these 20-year pockets or they really think that they are a specific self, that they built a certain self up, that in all practicality, this is myself, right? And they get caught up into the reasoning that isn't even theirs intrinsically. And when they lose the status of their hormones, youth, vitality, they aren't there anymore, right? They aren't there. They don't exist anymore. And then many times, the more narcissistically inclined people that live in their own paracosm, their own delusional state, they will look back and try to remind themselves of the things they did, and then it takes on a whole different connotation. They're like relearning themselves, and they become less like themselves than you could ever imagine, because now they're just this chattering skeleton, old ass gross hangy skeleton walking around with lipstick on. Yeah. And I'm telling you, exercise is the solution. Exercise is always the answer. And you can only over-exercise if you're under-nourishing yourself, right? And this is what most people want to get to. They're thinking this way before they're there. Most everybody that you see, including Tom DeLure, he's not as fit as you think he is, right? He's actually not the pinnacle of fitness. He's playing with these concepts. He's not just so jacked up that he's just chowing down, really healthy food and just darting around and going from exercise. He's taking shortcuts. And that's the problem with today, is people are taking shortcuts. They're not walking the long mile. They're not putting themselves through the conditioning. And even more so, as people are getting older, they're going just the opposite direction. And that's where I was. It's like, when I looked at myself from 5 years ago compared to now, it's like, how is it I could go age backwards and then age forwards and then age backwards? And it's like, it's the walking, man. As soon as you stop, and I didn't even understand the nutrients. I was just messing around with supplements before. Couldn't afford them, so I was just trying to take in as much as I could from a natural source. But when I could, I'd take in my share of multivitamins and vitamin C, Bs, taking in some other supplements, but I wasn't focusing in and highlighting the magnesium, the vitamin C, right? And all the selenium, the zinc. I mean, you could go on and on with the beef liver, sardines, eggs, and here tuna. We're getting adequate amounts of omegas now. We're getting it all from a natural source. So 750 calories. That's my base. That's what I'm sticking with. That's the base food that I'm eating. We're going to make some hard-boiled eggs today. I might make about 8. I'll probably eat about four eggs. I'm going to hard-boil them a little longer than last time. I liked them. They were amazing. But I followed it to in fact, what I'm going to do is, this is the trick with hard-boiled eggs, is you put water, ice water, put this in for like a good hour or so, a whole thing of water, and you take it right when you're done. So bring your water up to boiling right when you're done. Will that even close? Yeah, it did close. Right when you're done. So I would say right at the 8-minute mark, to make the perfect hard-boiled eggs. You put those in, time them from the moment you put them in there. Got the water boiling. Obviously, the cold eggs are gonna stop them from boiling, or stop the water from boiling. You can put a little oil in with the water and a little salt. For me, that just seems like it softens up the shell a little bit. And you time it for exactly 8 minutes. And then the moment that you take them off, you run them, you dump out all the hot water and you run cool water over it, like the moment, right? And then you get out that, as you're running the water, the cold water over the eggs, and you do it several times. So you make sure that pot is completely, or pan is pot, is completely cooled off. you grab that ice water out of there. Ice water meaning you kept it in there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours even. You throw those eggs right in there and put them right in the freezer. Keep them in there for, I've heard long periods of time, I've heard short periods of time, but keep them in there for several minutes, let them cool down. And what that does is makes it so you can crack those eggs. They just peel right off. They just come right out. It's amazing. Yeah, I think 8 minutes is perfect, but if you want that runny, do 7, that little bit of runniness, that perfect sort of Asian style, right? And if you want them completely cooked but not overcooked, you could go 9 minutes. But 8 minutes would be the perfect time to get that perfect kind of smoother texture yolk on the inside, but not runny. Not runny, just smooth. All right, we're gonna say video. Let's do 10 more minutes. Let's do 10 more minutes. Let's finish it up at 10. And then we'll charge up. See how we got 2 hours in. And when I go back into the TRX, I'll be doing a lot of filming with the exercises. I may do a green screen in the back. I have a green screen. I'm just not sure how I want to set it up. Need to get some tacks and things like that and really set it up somewhere, right? But I got to do it. And when I go do those exercises, it's going to be full body. That's why I'm almost tempted to not even show it this time around. Do another flurry of several days of hardcore training. And then I might be able, like, it's awesome when you launch and you're going, okay, I'm 6-7 days in training and I still want to work out and I don't feel like I'm hurting myself. And there's just a weird thing that happens when you're eating all that you need. Your body weight and your body fat's reducing, your muscles are getting tighter and stronger, and your body just is hungry for a little meat, hungry for training, right? Your metabolism's kicked up, your hormones are back in balance. It's time to go. Do or die. So by this time, I would say it's not quite 5 miles. Yeah. I'd say it's not quite 5 miles. So I'll walk 4 or 5 hours straight. And then I'll start hurting in certain areas, you know, just my back and all that. It'll just be a lot of strain. And I think it's also from getting fatigued in certain muscles, where my muscles are just can't hold it up kind of thing, like it's still recovering. And that's just where I have to cautiously go through and do like retraction, protraction when I'm on the TRX. Elevation, you know, depression, like those really basic movements through your shoulders where you're not even involving like scaption. I mean, there's a little scaption going on there. You can do full-on scaption where you're just doing something like that, right? You're just pulling through. And you're getting to the point where you're getting that scaption in when you can really work with your body weight, and at the top of the movement when you're doing a pull-up, you know, you're able to really get up there, right? That's when you see your back muscles really do well. And I think to get up to that place, the TRX really helps doing those supine rows from the TRX. I love them. Starting to really want it. I might take one more day resting before I jump right in and just make it count. I'm trying not to prematurely push myself into training because I want my training to go on for several days, or I want my intensity to be increasing constantly, you know, my acuity, everything. sports performance. I want to get back into a highly trained sports performance place. I was right on the fringe, right there. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice, throw caution to the wind. Hopefully some sort of capricious energy will notice me. That never works out. You have to be active. You have to be focused in what you do, and you don't go back out of it. You stay the course. You stay focused. It's the truth. But I don't really know what's going on with those Masons. Like, I don't really believe that. And I think probably the people that came after Philip Marsteller were probably better people. He seemed like a real suck-up. You know, he was renting a flat out from George Washington. Can you imagine how life must have been? Interesting, right? Interesting to even think about it. And then there was, going back to 1096, Johann von Marsteller, and there's a family crest. So that's pretty cool. We're probably all the Marstellers, Maustellers, Mastellers, Maustillers are related. Are related to that progenitor. Who knows, right? That's good, though. My son's been staying away from them jelly beans for a long time, sitting there. All right.